Hello, everyone. So today we're talking about whether or not it's too late to start investing. Now, this topic was inspired by a few DMs that I did receive on social media where I had some women who are in their late 40s, early 50s, and they feel as if it's just too late for them to start investing. They feel like this for a few reasons, right? They know they haven't been doing what they should have been doing according to them, and they feel so overwhelmed. They're not sure if it makes sense to even start. They feel as if they've lost so much time. Can they start now? Is it realistic? And there are so many women that feel like this, and men, of course. And what I will always say is it's never too late, right? When you are in your 40s and 50s, this is the time to really focus on retirement, what retirement looks like. And while you may not have done the things you thought you were going to do, you don't want to let that get in the way of still starting them now because 60, 70, 80-year-old you will wish that 40-year-old you started today, right? So, should you have done more in your 20s and 30s? Maybe, but you're here now, right? So, we can't change the past. What we can do is learn from it and move forward. So, I'm going to share three things you can do to start your investing journey. And the first thing I always say in pretty much any course or program that I offer is mindset and forgiveness, right? So, when it comes to forgiveness, while that might not feel like it's important when it comes to investing, it really is, right? When it comes to money and finances, your mindset and emotional feelings around money play such a huge part. That's why I do always focus on mindset, feelings first in anything that I do offer. So the forgiveness part is super important because that I hate to use the word hatred, but we tend to beat ourselves up for the things that we didn't do, the things we didn't learn, the things we didn't get right. And we kind of sit in that place. We sit in this place of focusing on the mistakes, we focus on the setbacks, and sometimes we make excuses. And whatever it is, right, these things are there and they're sometimes holding you back from making progress. I like to focus on solutions and how do we move forward. The mistakes, the issues, the setbacks, they are a thing, right? They happened. And I like to say we need to learn the lesson and then move on. Sometimes you kind of sit in this place of, the pity party, right? Where we talk about the things that went wrong and what we could have done better. And if this had gone this way, my life would look like this now. And there's so many things that we focus on that don't make progress. It's not helping the future. And so we can't rewrite history. We try to, but there's no way to really do that. So now it is how can you rewrite or focus on writing a new future, a better future? And that's where the forgiveness part comes into play. You want to acknowledge the things that went wrong, whether you did them wrong, life handed you some bad cards, or whatever the case may be, and you kind of learn the lesson, right? What did you do wrong? What could you have done better? What went well and what didn't go so well? And then you kind of do that assessment, will take the lesson with you and now move forward. Sitting in the past isn't conducive to anything that future you is going to need. So there's the first thing you need to do in your investing journey. Now, the second thing, which also kind of focuses on mindset, is we have to stop making the excuses as to why we can't. I've had quite a few women say, "Oh, well, I don't know about investing. I didn't learn this stuff in school. I didn't learn this as an adult. So it's really hard to get started now. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I kind of am waiting for some magical thing to happen before I start." And when I say magical, they don't really say that, but they kind of have this preconceived notion of what needs to be in place before they start investing. And the things I've heard, you'd be mighty surprised. So they're waiting to make more money. Now, the more money part is really subjective because many times the opportunity comes where you are making more money and you still don't start. So there's that. Also, it might be quite some time before the thing you want to happen actually happens. And nothing wrong with that. If you're working towards a promotion, you're shifting careers, right? You are working towards this alternate way to make more money. And that's fantastic. I love that. But You don't want to miss the opportunity to earn something in the meantime, right? So if you are waiting for this promotion that might happen next year, fantastic. But are you willing to let a whole 12 months go by without putting anything in the market? And that's going to help you earn more money in the future. Now, of course, if there are trade offs, if you are focusing on paying down debt, saving up towards a house, if there are other financial priorities, I totally get that. But the great thing about investing, you don't need a large budget to get started. You can start with a smaller budget. I always say do what you can with what you have. You can start small, you can do it slowly and steadily, but to do nothing, I think that's really not fair to future you. So we have to kind of remove these made up boundaries that we're putting in place. And you have to be okay with just starting. You have to be okay with starting without knowing all of the things and everything just not being aligned. Because truthfully, nothing ever aligns totally when it comes to life, right? With whatever goal you're working toward, whether it's your fitness goals, financial goals, career goals, family planning goals, whatever, right, everything else in between. You never get to check every single thing off your checklist in order for the thing to happen. You are going to have some things that do fall into place, other things not so much, but you really don't want to wait to check every single box before you make that next move. Because if you're waiting for that, you'll never make that next step. Never. And that kind of leads me to the third part, or the third thing you need to do when it comes to wealth building and then beginning your investing journey, is you have to just commit and you have to start. Now, when I say commit, it could look a little different for everyone, but truthfully, it should kind of include some of these things that I'm going to mention. So the first thing is, again, commit. Just say to yourself, I'm ready, even if I don't feel ready. Even if everything isn't quite where I want it to be, I'm still willing and ready to start. So there's that. Then the next thing you want to do is just set a monthly budget. And it doesn't have to be a large budget. Don't let anyone fool you to say you have to have hundreds and thousands of dollars to start investing. Now, is it nice if you have that? Absolutely. But if that's not where you are yet, that's totally fine. And there's a few reasons why starting small isn't a bad thing. If you are just starting investing, whether you just graduated college, you're now starting your career, or you're just in a place where you're ready, you may want to start smaller until you get more comfortable and kind of learn more and get more familiar before you start investing a lot more money into the market. And that's totally okay. When it comes to investing, no one has all the answers. No one knows everything per se, but you do what you can with what you have. And you have to be willing to start and be willing to learn along the way. It's kind of like building the parachute on your way down if you're jumping out of an airplane, like that analogy that we've seen on social media. That's kind of what investing might have to be for you. You don't have to wait for everything to be aligned and perfect. You don't have to wait to get all the knowledge to start. You just start and learn as you go. And that's part of what the commitment process means. So you're going to start. I'll talk about what that looks like. And you want to kind of commit to self development and just learning more things as you go along. And there's so many ways you can navigate that, right? You can navigate it by listening to ebooks, watching YouTube videos, podcasts, physical books, right? There's so many ways to learn. And you want to meet yourself where you are currently. We all are going through different stages and phases of life. So you might find that, right now you don't have a large capacity to learn a whole lot, but maybe you can, buy a short ebook. I happen to have one. I do have one in my link in the description down below. This book is called The Stock Market Investors for Beginners. Now, in this ebook, I do teach you about investing in a way that's very simple and very easy to understand. I give you investing terminology. We talk about the investor checklist. So if you want to check that out, again, that is in the caption down below. Or if you're someone who prefers audiobooks, that's also a great way. So if you like to listen to audiobooks on your drive into the office, whether you're driving or taking the train, if you're going for your morning or evening walks, right? That's a great way to get your movement in, but also learn about investing along the way. So you want to find what's going to suit you in this season. And over time, you can go into more in-depth ways of learning, like online courses, coaching, etc. But don't think that you have to spend lots of money to get started. It's so not true. So there's that. And then when you are ready to start and you have your monthly budget, now you want to just start testing. And what I mean by testing is no one has the answers as to how the market's going to work. No one, not work, but no one knows how the market's going to operate day to day. Some days the markets is up, sometimes the markets are down, and even the individual stocks that you buy too, they go through phases and cycles as well. So you want to just kind of understand how things work and see what does well for you and what isn't working so well for you. And that's where starting small might work in your favor. So if you're like, well, I don't even know where to start when it comes to like what companies do I invest in? I don't even what do I do? So this is where you kind of go into what you know already. The companies you use in your day-to-day life, the companies you might use their products, their services, or you are aware of their products and services. Or you may want to focus on industries. So kind of start with what's familiar to you. And then as time goes on, you can start to learn more about new companies, new industries. You can learn how to do your research before you invest in a company. That I do talk a lot about on this channel. So you want to just kind of navigate in a way that's going to be comfortable for you. And if you're putting in smaller amounts into the market while you're testing things out, that might just work in your favor. So as you see what's going well, what's not going so well, then you can say, well, now I feel better about what I'm doing. Now I can invest more money into the market. And the great thing about the market is you don't need a lot of money to get started. You have things like fractional shares. So with fractional shares, you don't need to have enough money to buy one full share of a stock. You can take whatever amount of money you have and make the investment. So for example, if you were trying to buy, let's say, stock in Apple, I think Apple's like $200 per share. If you don't quite have $200, you can invest $25, $50, $10. You really can invest whatever amount you have. And all you can do is repeat that over and over until you do end up with one full share. And the great thing about fractional shares is you also do receive dividend payments as well. So it's definitely going to be a win-win for you. And then over time, if you have more money to invest in the market, you can so do that as well. So really don't think about being behind, not having enough money. Think about, I'm going to do this for future me. I'm 40 something, 50 something years old now. What will 60, 70, 80-year-old me need from 40-year-old me today? And that's really how you want to think about it. I've had quite a few women send me DMs and they're just worried about not having enough in retirement. They feel that they're so far behind. They don't know where to get started. And all these feelings are very much so valid, but you can't let this analysis paralysis get in the way of you getting started. You can't change the past, but you can change the future by starting today. So really think about that and what that looks like for you. I also like to recommend having one day a week to sit down and look at your investments and decide, well, should I invest more? Should I invest in less? Also, look at what you have in your portfolio. As you start investing more and more into the market, you may notice that you tend to stick to certain industries, certain companies, which over time you want to kind of broaden your horizon and not have all of your eggs in one basket. So, for example, I had a client of mine a few years ago. When we were going through her investment, she realized that all she had in her portfolio were tech companies. She had the Googles, the Metas, the Apples, the Teslas. And while those are great companies to invest in potentially, you don't want to have all of your money in one industry. So this is where you want to kind of see, well, where am I investing currently and where am I not investing and where can I kind of put more eggs in different baskets so you can expand to healthcare, energy, retail, right? There's so many other industries you can explore. So you want to kind of make sure you are doing that on a regular basis too. Now, once a week might be a bit much for this like overview, once a month or once a quarter. And this applies to whether you have a brokerage account, a 401k, an IRA, all of you that have those accounts, this applies to you. So ideally, if you can look at your investments once a month, That I would say will be more ideal. But at a bare minimum, once every quarter should be the cadence in which you are checking on your investments. So you want to set a calendar reminder in your phone, repeat that. It could be like day one of Q1. You could do that, or the last day of the quarter, whatever cadence you want, but just have regular touch points so you can see what is going on with your finances. I've seen so many people who are actively investing, which is fantastic, but they're not doing the second half of the equation, right? The second half of the equation is checking your investments to see what's going on, to see what is doing well, what is not doing so well, and what adjustments do you need to make, if any. Right? Sometimes you may look at what you have in your portfolio and everything looks good or good enough and no change or need to be made. But there might be other times where, something looks really bad, something looks really good, or you may want to make some tweaks based upon the portfolio's performance. Now, when it comes to checking your investments, I know sometimes we might feel, well, what am I looking for? I don't really know. And so that's definitely a valid question. So when you are looking at your portfolio, you want to understand before I go where I want to go, let's kind of go to some admin things. One, you want to make sure you've assigned beneficiaries to your portfolio. Whether you have that 401k, IRA, checking account, savings account, any accounts you might have, make sure you have assigned beneficiaries. So there's that. And you want to update those as need be. So I say once a year, check the beneficiaries. So put that aside. Let's talk about just the portfolio itself. So you want to understand your portfolio's performance. Now, when you open your portfolio, you'll see some numbers. You'll see year-to-date performance, maybe quarter-to-date performance, daily performance, etc. And there'll be some percentages. It might be red, might be green. So the green means it's up, the red means it's down, and you're looking at it, well, what does this mean? Fair. So what it's telling you is how your portfolio is performing over a certain time period. Now, that number by itself doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's just comparing like last year to this year, last quarter to this, right? It's just comparing your portfolio to a certain time in a certain time frame. But what you want to do is compare your portfolio to a stock market performance. So you can compare it to the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones. Now, what is that going to tell you? That's going to tell you if you are doing better than the stock market, on par with the market, or if you are behind the market. So just to give some examples, let's say the S&P, now this is not real numbers, just an example. Let's say the S&P is up 20% versus last year, and you open your portfolio and you are up 30%. So that means your portfolio is performing better than the S&P 500. So that means you're doing well. That benchmark just tells you how well you're doing against a stock market here in the US. Now, let's say same example. The S&P is performing 20% or up 20% versus last year. You open your portfolio, it says you're up 22%. That means you're doing well. You're doing on par with the S&P 500, which means you're doing pretty decently well. Now, if you open your portfolio and it shows you're only up 10%, that means your portfolio is doing worse than the stock market average. And so when it's doing worse, that's when you want to understand, well, why is my portfolio performing so poorly? And once you kind of understand that, then you can make some adjustments along the way. And so this is an example of how you would check your portfolio. You want to see how it's performing against a stock market in the US. And then that helps you understand whether you're doing great, you're doing okay, or if your portfolio is not doing so well. Now, for most portfolios, when you log into it, there should be a place to see the three standard markets here in the US, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones. So you don't have to go searching for these numbers. It should pretty much be there somewhere on the summary page, so it's easy for you to kind of see and understand. I know with Fidelity, for example, when you look at your portfolio's performance, it actually does the benchmarking for you. So it'll have the rate of returns of your portfolio on top, and then it'll show, I think, the S&P and the Dow Jones. I don't think it shows the NASDAQ, and it shows the comparisons year to date, quarter to date. And then I think you can go back 3, 5, maybe 10 years. Don't quote me on that. So they make it pretty easy for you to do this analysis. So I'm not promoting Fidelity, just I use them a lot. And so I'm very familiar with their platform. But this is one simple way for you to kind of understand your portfolio's performance. And this you should be doing once a month, again, a minimum once a quarter. So there's that. Don't do the ostrich thing where you're putting your head in the sand and you're hoping for the best. I know too many women who've been doing that and it doesn't serve you. I love that you are investing. I want you to continue to investing, but ignoring your investments is definitely counterproductive for a few reasons, right? It could cause you to miss opportunities to make more money. It could cause you to miss opportunities to fix the issues, right, in your portfolio. So there's that. And 3, it's just good business practice, right? You want to kind of make sure you're maintaining your finances, the way you check your checking and savings, hopefully on a regular basis. You want to kind of shift that mindset to your investments as well, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And that is a piece that I know it's what's causing people to not check their investments. It makes them feel very uncomfortable because they don't quite know what they're doing, truthfully. And they're scared to see what's going on in there, right? If I kind of do this and ignore it, I'm like, well, no news is good news because I don't know what's happening, right? And so you want to navigate away from that mindset. I know it makes you uncomfortable, and that's totally okay. But the more you start checking, the less uncomfortable it starts to get. And also, to take it one step further, the more you start to educate yourself and get more familiar with investing terminologies and just understanding how the market works, it gets a lot more comfortable for you to look at your portfolio, to know what it's doing. And also, you get more comfortable or you feel more confident in the things you are doing when you make changes and adjustments. So, learning will be your best friend in this process. But again, meet yourself where you are. But you really need to commit to the process, especially if you feel you are already behind. Um, Being behind is so subjective, so I don't want to go too much into that. But if you feel that because of wherever you are right now, it's up to you to fix it. And so if you can take that first step today, it will be the start of your journey. And 60, 70, and 80-year-old you will be so thankful that you actually started today in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. So please don't think you're behind. It's never too late to get started, but the best time to start is today. So I do have some resources in my caption down below. I do have the link to my ebook. You can check that out. The ebook, once you click the link and you make your purchase, you will get a copy that you can download. If you have any questions, once you do that, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. That's probably the best place to send me a DM. You can DM me on TikTok, but those DMs are kind of crazy lately. So I may or may not see your message, but feel free if you're on that platform to check me out there. I'm also opening up my calendar for one-on-one coaching sessions. So I will have a link to that listed down below. If you do follow me on Instagram or TikTok, the link in my bio will have a direct link to my scheduling calendar. So you can book a discovery call and we can see how we can work together. I used to do this a lot more during COVID. I kind of closed my books because things were just super busy. Now I have a bit more capacity to take on more clients. So I will have that listed down below as well. And if you have any questions that you want me to address in a future live, please put that in the comment section down below. When I do receive questions via DM or on any content that I create, I do take those into consideration to create future content. So feel free to do that. If you have a more personal question that you don't want me to address out loud, definitely let me know that when you send me that message. But I do tend to take the common questions and do a live because of this. Few people have these comments and questions. That means more people probably have the same thing. And so I figured doing a video will help the broader public. So there's that. So that's it for today's live, guys. I am resuming my lives here on YouTube. I took a little bit of a break, just trying to figure out my content schedule because I do have so many platforms. I'm trying to figure out what can I realistically commit to on each platform and be consistent. So that's what I've been working on behind the scenes. So I am going to resume my afternoon lives during the week. The weekly recaps, I want to continue doing those in the evening on Fridays. So we will keep that schedule going forward. And for the week, during the week lives, we will keep it during lunchtimes. And that seems to work out best for everyone's schedule. So with that, have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.